I'm not inspiring, I am entertaining and informing. A little bit of both. Well, good morning, everyone. Hail to the Queen Colleen. Hail to the Queen Colleen. Just warms my heart to remember those words. Makes me want to go out and do a jig. This is what we looked forward to every February or early March when I was in my 20s. I would like to evince to you the antics of the crew of Colleen in New Orleans, the journey to get there, what it was like to be on an actual crew marching in a parade, and most importantly, to tell you about the Queen. When I was in my 20s, and still to this day, I hung out with a group of musicians. One of those musicians, Jeff, who is a local entertainer these days, he had an aunt, Colleen. We heard all kinds of stories about Aunt Colleen. Well, since 1974, Aunt Colleen had a crew, a group of people that marched with her in the parade Fat Tuesday in New Orleans. That's New Orleans, New Orleans. And he would invite us to go with. So we would meet at my girlfriend's house. The last year I went, there were 18 of us. Squeezed all of us into a 17-passenger van. All the musical equipment was in a U-Haul trailer being towed by the van. We would take off up I-10, and for those of you who have ever made that journey from Orlando to the Deep South, boring. Not with this group. They were a mess. Jeff, being the entertainer that he is, would always talk about the different stories and tell us the things that Aunt Colleen did as he was growing up, because from the time he was little he was involved in this crew. Inevitably, right in the middle of the story, you hear, "Paper mill!" Well, we all know what paper mills smell like, but there really aren't any paper mills on the way there. It was just 18 people shoved into a 17-passenger van. At times, we would hear, "Mints! Mints!" That was the peppermint schnapps bottle getting passed around on the way. We'd roll into Baton Rouge, and that's where Jeff's from. His mom and dad, MJ and Blackie, Mary Jane and Blackie, were gracious enough to open their arms in their home to all of us 20-something-year-olds, musicians nonetheless. And they had plenty of beds, couches, carpeted floor. It was really, really nice. And they were very hospitable. We'd get in late on the first night, on Friday night. We would get a good night's sleep, because that was really the only night that we got any sleep. Get up the next day, the parades had started, the music had started. We'd go out and get involved with the community and the locals who were all having fun. And that night, the musicians would play at a local bar/restaurant, all of our musician friends, called the Catering. And we'd dance the night away, we'd have a great time. Before we even got there, though, we'd suck some head.
What?
Exactly, crawdads. We would lay out newspaper along a big table like this. Everybody would stand around, and we'd have big pots that we had boiled crawdads and potatoes and corn and all kinds of Cajun spices in. And they would get piled, they were drained, piled out in the middle of the table, and you'd sit there and shell them. And it's like eating lobster or shrimp. I mean, it was really, really good. But then you'd break off the head and you'd suck the juice out of the head. And I'm sorry for you all who are eating breakfast. But it was really, really good. And it's part of Mardi Gras. It's part of being from New Orleans and being in that Louisiana state of mind. Next day, we'd all get up, 2 hours sleep typically, load back in the van, and we'd head to New Orleans. We were going to see Aunt Colleen. Fortunately, the drive wasn't nearly as long. We would get there, all of us getting out of the van, kind of sauntering up to Aunt Colleen's door. Her place is a whole lot smaller than MJ and Blackie's. Jeff walks up, knocks on the door. "Aunt Colleen, we're here!" Door swings open, and I'm going to stop right there just to tell you a little bit about Aunt Colleen. Aunt Colleen was probably in her 60s at this time. She was a renowned storyteller, traveled the country, was an author of children's books, a big advocate of children's literacy, was very renowned in New Orleans and even across the world, and even to this day her books are still in print and are told on a yearly basis, especially around the Cajun Christmas time and such. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal woman. All right, so let's go back to the door swinging open. Here's Aunt Colleen, the queen. All 4'11" of her, 200 plus pounds.
Oh.
All right, this is my house. She got a cigarette in one hand, a beer in the other hand.
Oh.
We got some rules around here. There ain't no showers. You don't dawdle in the bathroom. And it went on and on and on. We're all sitting there going, okay, okay. We all go in, pick some little piece of floor, because she informed us that this was no hotel. We had to find our own space, and you stay out from underfoot. Well, I got the laundry room, the linoleum floor, and I only had to share it with 5 other people. It was awesome. That was such a good year. As soon as we dropped our stuff, we went out and we hit the quarter. I don't know how many, the French Quarter, how many of you have been to Mardi Gras before? It's a trip. It really is. The whole goal of the trip is to get as many beads as you can, so you look like Mr. T when you leave, and your nip chin's kind of resting on the beads. We won't talk about how you get the best beads, but those of you who've been to Mardi Gras may know that already. And it's not necessary to do that, but people question when you end up with a lot of beads how you got them. We would saunter around and check out the local acts, the jazz clubs, the bars and such. We would go back in the evening after the parades and listen to Aunt Colleen, the queen, tell stories. She was just such a trip. We'd eat Popeye's chicken and dirty beans and rice. Again, I told you, I was with a bunch of musicians, so there was always music happening. It was just a phenomenal experience. And then would come Fat Tuesday, the final day, the hoopla. The guys would pick up Aunt Colleen, the queen, stick her in a grocery cart that was modified for her.
Oh,
she had a queen. She had her milk punch, which was bourbon milk and some sugar and vanilla and such, that she drank all day. And she would stay in that cart and somehow manage not to go to the bathroom throughout the parade. She had a scepter that was a grab hand that you could reach up and grab things with. But someone had broken the middle finger, so when she would pull it down, the middle finger would stick up. And she was a trip. She was just phenomenal. And as we would go down the streets, we would stop just like you would at a parade route, and everyone would, we'd be marching along. Everybody's got their drums, and we're going on. And then someone would yell "dog pile" right down in the middle of the street. Everyone would go on top of each other.
Oh.
Some of our crew would be doing flips, going back and forth. And it was a phenomenal experience. But the queen, I have so much respect for her. She was just a wonderful lady. I say lady loosely. She was very good with the kids and in what she did with her life. Thank you very much.